Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Lyoko Retrospectives, and today we're going to be discussing episode 18 of Code Lyoko, Killer Music, and I'm just going to say this right now, this episode legitimately scared me. In a kind of primal sense, this episode just kind of actually, honest to God, scared me. How so? Well, as the name of the episode implies, the thread of the week is music, so to speak. Xana has sent out has pretty much made his own music that's entitled "Good to Be Bad." I think. Correct me if I'm wrong in that regard. And pretty much it begins just spreading around. At first, it's just a song that you can download online and just listen to at your convenience. But the song, and while the song is catchy, it being a song made by Xana, of course, it does something terrible to those who listen to it. In this case, if you listen to it, it causes paralysis. Just once you hear the music playing, it will start to numb your muscles until eventually you can't move anymore. And unfortunately, as time goes on, your muscles will start to stop working altogether until eventually you die. They don't actually say that in the episode, but it's heavily implied. With an example being in this episode, in the beginning of this episode, Ulrich is trying to study for a physics exam the next day, but Odd is listening to the music over his MP3, and Ulrich, getting annoyed, just bolts and goes to Jeremy's room for it to study. But as Odd's listening to the music, he seems to seize up before falling onto his bed with a grin just stuck on his face. And the Lyoko group does eventually discover this, as throughout the rest of the day they're wondering where Odd is, but until they go back to check in his and Ulrich's room, and yeah, Odd's just lying there. And since he's not responding, they bring him to the nurse's office, and when they don't get any response, they immediately rush him to the hospital, with Ulrich and Jeremy going with them. Ulrich because he feels guilty for having left Odd alone, and Jeremy to make sure that this is a Xana plot. But of course, things just continue to escalate. Eventually, as bit by bit people start falling under the influence of it, with the first one after Odd being Sissy, who also downloaded the music, and thus when Yumi brings her to the nurse's office, Xana, being Xana, begins playing the music anywhere that can play. Like, for example, the nurse turned on her own music, and Xana immediately hacked into the system and played his song, which manages to paralyze the nurse, and Yumi only managed to get out by covering her ears. And as such, Xana begins playing, and as such, bit by bit, more of the city, more people throughout the city and town just start hearing the music and seizing up, resulting in people thinking that this is like an epidemic or something, but none of them can figure out how. As such, Jeremy and Ulrich go to Lyoko, and yeah, Aelita does confirm that the activated towers in the mountain region. And so they go into Lyoko, and so Yumi follows them into Lyoko, and well, straight to the point, they do manage to solve it, and by the end of the episode, everything's rewound back to that night when Ulrich was studying, and Odd is still listening to music, but it's thankfully a different song, and Ulrich manages, and while Ulrich does get annoyed with Odd, instead of storming out in a huff, he instead kind of appeals to Odd's ego a bit by asking if Odd can help him study since he's so good at physics. And Odd decides that sure, why not? Sure, why not? And he even tries making an excuse that the music he's listening to is just sort of too mainstream. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. Anyway, so yeah, like I said, when it comes down to the actual story, the episode is once again kind of more of a filler, as it's really just there to help progress the story, as it's really just there to give us our regular thread of the week by Xana, and for all intents and purposes, it does its job well. But as I said at the beginning of this vlog, this episode legitimately scared me. And it's mostly because of the nature of the threat. I talked about how certain threats that Xana possessed are kind of scary thoughts, and actually in practice are viable threats. And this is no exception. It's a music that, when played, and just starts dulling your muscles until eventually you can't move, and then even long after that, your muscles will just you'll just stop working altogether, including your circulatory system, which is legitimately terrifying to me, because I feel there's nothing scarier than your body turning against you. Just kind of seeing it, and just bit by bit seeing the life passing away, just passing away. And we see it in the case of Odd. When Odd first freezes up and is paralyzed, you can still hear the music playing over his headphones, but just seeing him frozen like that, with a grin just plastered on his face, it kind of gives you the willies. And then as you learn more and more that his heart rate is actually slowing down, it starts making you, it actually kind of keeps you a little on the edge, because because just bit by bit, he's inching closer to death. His body is just slowly turning against him. And I think what makes it scarier is that while they do say that people are in a coma, at best this is kind of a guess. They don't actually know if people are in a coma, just that it seems like they are, since they're not responding to anything. But they all are just frozen there. We see Odd, and seeing Odd there, as every time you check back in with him, just seeing him unable to move, just stuck with a grin on his face, and even when they bring him to the hospital, and he's hooked up to like a heart, when he's hooked up, and when you get one of those little heart rate machines heart rate monitors, just seeing his pulse just slowly getting worse, it's kind of like he's on his deathbed, and there's nothing he can do to stop it. Just bit by bit, his heart rate starts slowing. And it gets worse when Xana just starts projecting the music everywhere. To Xana's credit, he does actually get smart, as when Jeremy sends Ulrich and Yumi to Lyoko, he's tuning into the news broadcast about this new everything going on, and Xana immediately hacks into the feed and starts playing the music. Now, Jeremy is smart, as he immediately takes off his headset and goes to unplug the sound, but Xana, being Xana, immediately starts playing it over the speakers in the factory, and so Jeremy can't shut it out no matter how much he wants to. Same goes for Ulrich, as he gets devirtualized and gets sent out. So it's pretty much just, you can't hide from it. You can try covering your ears as best as you can, and that would probably work, but as long as there's something out there that can that can make a noise or can project music, Xana can find you. And in this case, it's just kind of even scarier, because all Xana has to do is just play this song, and you just start to freeze. Yumi, at one point, actually starts listening to the music, and just listening a few seconds, she starts feeling dizzy and starts slowing down before she manages to regain her senses and just throws it aside. So even just hearing a little bit of it starts to have an effect on you. It's actually, and it's just severely scary, especially when you especially when people start dropping dead, being paralyzed. You don't know whether they're conscious or not, which I guess makes sense. But again, seeing them just there frozen with grins on their faces, looks of abject horror, or just simple serenity, and like in the case of Sissy, they are unable to move, and you know that every second their bodies are slowly shutting down. It's legitimately creepy, especially as when you see with Odd and the heart rate monitor. They do keep cutting back to him, and the heart rate monitor, and when it keeps getting slower and slower, it starts freaking you out. It starts freaking you out as every single second inches him just a little bit closer, and I think that's why it makes it even scarier for me. Just that tension. It's not like there's a threat that's just right there that's just trying to get in. No, the threat's there. It's already struck, but it's not killing you immediately. It's just slowly inching away at what's left. And so to see that heart monitor, to see his heart rate just get slower and slower and slower until at one point it's just going to flatline, it's legitimately terrifying. Seeing and even if he does flatline, You wouldn't, unless you were keeping track of his pulse, you wouldn't know. He'd be still stuck there, lying there, his body frozen, his body frozen, unable to move. Even if he is conscious, he would just have to lie there and take it. It's terrifying. Being a prisoner of your own body, knowing it's turning you against you, and just seeing your last moments just blip away, just heartbeat by heartbeat, start to just get short. Seeing your life just get shorter and shorter with every passing heartbeat. It's scary, and seeing it seeing it how it progresses just makes it even scarier. And seeing it happen to people one by one is even more scary. Seeing Jeremy finally get hit by it, then seeing Ulrich get hit by it when he gets devirtualized, just gives me the willies, and ultimately it makes this one of the few episodes that actually kind of got to me on a primal level. Just kind of seeing how what the music can do, and just seeing it in action as people just start getting paralyzed, as people get paralyzed and their heartbeats slow. So otherwise, so I give it that. Otherwise, though, like I said, it is still just kind of a regular filler episode. We got some stuff. We got the stuff with Ulrich and Odd. And Ulrich does get some survivors, and does regret leaving Odd alone, which is nice. Which I do like, especially since when they go back in time, Ulrich learns from his mistake, and instead of just storming off in a huff, he actually manages to talk down Odd. And Odd, if he actually remembered traveling back in time, which I'm guessing he did, because they established that the Lyoko kids do still remember going back in time. This just helps me wonder why he's listening to music. And I know all he had to do was just download music. All he had to do was just be careful what he downloaded. And in this case, he just had to make sure he didn't download Xana's song, which I'm guessing wouldn't be uploaded anyway, because, well, they fixed everything, and going back in time undid whatever Xana did. So my question but I would still just be safe and be like, maybe I'll just put the headphones away for a while, is what I'm saying. It's just so, Either way, though, it's still a perfectly nice episode. But again, I think the greatest aspect is the threat of the week. It's legitimately terrifying. Just kind of gets you on a primal level, and just seeing the seconds tick by as it just keeps getting worse and worse. It actually does kind of keep you, and it does keep you at the edge of your seat, and just kind of make you jumpy when things to go. It does kind of make you jumpy, as you kind of don't want the kids to make a mistake in Lyoko at any point, because every second, because if they fail here, if you fail here, it is kind of bad. If they fail here, it's kind of the worst thing. And again, it's not like they weren't in mortal danger before. It's just, again, the nature of this threat really does get to you on a primal level. So, yeah. Yeah. Still a perfectly nice episode. So, genuinely scary threat. Some great tension because of it. Overall, perfectly fine. Perfectly fine episode, but ugh. So, thanks for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and I'll see you next week. Take care.